Well, greetings. I'm talking to you today from the common room of the Howdenshire Literary Society, which I'm rather proud to say I'm the president, and I'm more doubly proud to say has not closed throughout this scamdemic. We've been remaining open for business, and we have not closed down, and I'm very thankful for it, and a jolly good time and very interesting time has been had by all for the last year. Leaving that aside, now I want to talk to you about two things. I want to talk to you about freedom. I want to talk to you also about risk analysis. They are two sides of the same coin, and I'll come on to risk analysis in a minute. Firstly, freedom. Now, it's attributed to Benjamin Franklin, who said that you cannot make the choice between safety and freedom. Because if you make the choice of safety, you will end up losing both. And he's absolutely right. Now, freedom is something that is not in the government's gift to give a Brit. If you're British, it's not within the Prime Minister's gift to give you freedom. It's yours by birthright. Okay? It's not for little weasels like Matt Hancock or Chris Whitty and all these dreadful people to grant you freedom. It's a birthright. And it's been fought for. And it's been fought for generations. My father was a pilot in the war. He fought for our freedom. I'm sure you watching this clip have a father or a grandfather perhaps who did the same, did his bit in the war for our freedom, and great-great-grandfathers if you go back over the years. So freedom is something the politician, a modern politician, cannot give you. But it's certainly at the moment something he can take from you. And he has taken it from you. And it's not the way we British like to run our lives. We are freeborn. These people only have the stewardship of our freedoms. They're not theirs to take away. And worse still, these freedoms haven't been taken away either by our elected parliament. This Freedom Day that's now been postponed again, and those of you who follow me and have been following me for a year, I told you so. No intention of coming out of lockdown at all. They never had. My New Year's video said the same thing. These people have no intention whatsoever of giving you back your freedom, and they never had, because it isn't about public health, it's about political control. So these people are going to keep your freedoms in their pocket to give you like sweeties to children every now and again. So you can expect more of, yes, you can have a wedding under certain circumstances, but you can't dance. You can go to church, but you can't sing hymns. You go into the pub, but if you stand up in the pub, you have to put your mask back on to go to the lavatory. All the lunacies that we put up with, and we put up with them. And these freedoms are being taken away from us because you, probably not people watching the clip in fairness, but you, the British people, have allowed it to happen. You've allowed it to happen. Freedom is something you have to fight for permanently. You can't fight for it and then hope to God in the next 200 years it will remain. You have to fight for it on a daily basis because there's always somebody, usually the government, wanting to take your freedom away. The difference between now and the old medieval monarchs, of course, they claim now they want to take it away for your benefit. It's for your benefit. Ha! And I think they've blown the gaff here when you actually see them in Cornwall at the G7. There's one rule for masks and social distancing in parties for you, the plebs, and there's another for them, the big shots at the G7. It's been blown wide open. They don't care about you. They don't take any notice of you. And the cartel is run by a small group of people, not even elected people, in number 10 Downing Street. Your local MP has had nothing to do with this. He has not been asked his opinion. There's been no debate, no cost-benefit analysis of lockdown at all. So the whole thing has been an utter disgrace from the word go. Now I said I'd come on to risk assessment. A little bit about risk assessment. Well, I'm trained in risk assessment. I started my career in the 1960s at a Lloyd's broker. Where we assessed the risks and we took it to underwriters on the floor at Lloyd's, where my nephew now is. He happens to be public liability underwriter. But they would then assess the risk, and it would be based on uberima fides, the utmost good faith between the two parties, and the insurance then could take place. And it's been on for hundreds of years, and the risk assessment will be professionally done. And I did my exams, my nephew has done his exams, and we've had to learn the definitions of all sorts of things like subrogation and goodness knows what, the principles of English law, so on and so forth. We've had to do all that kind of thing. But here's the point. I ended up the chief executive of a life insurance company, so my expertise is in mortality statistics and the risks for life insurance risks, rather than my nephew's, which is public liability, or others might be fire insurance or aviation insurance, so on and so forth. Not the point. Risk assessment. Now, I happen to be a professional, but that doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Everybody gets up in the morning and makes their own personal risk assessments. You go to work. Let's say you go to work in the car. Your risk assessment, do you overtake on this piece of road or another piece of road? Do you wait until it becomes dual carriageway, so on and so forth? You make a risk assessment every time you get in the car. Sometimes scores of them before you even go quite a short journey. Risk assessment you make. Even your children, your slightly older children, standing on the curbside to cross the road, make a risk assessment. They look left and right and left again, or whatever it was, whatever the new code is, they look and then they cross. And when you're crossing the road, or you're crossing the road with your children, they might make an assessment. Do they walk up to the zebra crossing, or do they think it's clear to cross where they stand? It's a risk assessment. You might be at work and the phone goes, and it could be a headhunter, and they're offering you a lot more money to move to them, for example. And you have to then say, yes, it's a lot more money, but they don't have a pension scheme. They're a bit more hire and fire. It's an American company. So you have to balance the risks of more money with the kind of job that it is, the job satisfaction, all the other things that go with that. That is a risk assessment. Now, what we have here at the moment, which is taking away our freedoms, are these untrained, unskilled, dreadful people who are making risk assessments on our behalf. I don't want them making risk assessments on my behalf or behalf of my family. I'm perfectly capable of making my own risk assessments, thanks very much, and so are you. So this has got nothing to do with the government. And if you crunch down the numbers, and I'm boring you, I know, say the same thing again, Office of National Statistics, what you have to do is you have to work out what are your chances with this recent scamdemic, but it doesn't have to be this recent one, the COVID, it could be anything. But let's take this one because it's topical, because it's taken away our freedom. If you are under 75, no comorbidity, in other words, you're fully fit, there's nothing wrong with you, no vitamin deficiency, as it were, or anything else, the chances of this COVID killing you are 1 in 300,000 at most. And at the moment, as we've gone through the last year, almost non-existent, virtually non-existent. What has happened is they've changed the protocols for death certificates. They've changed all that. So consequently, they can put people who've died of other causes who happen to have had COVID within 28 days or been tested positive with COVID within 28 days, they can put them on the ticket. So they can actually claim, it's 130,000 people have died from COVID. Not the truth at all. Absolutely ludicrous. Nowhere near that figure. Probably with no comorbidity, it's probably nearer 5%. So they're just roundabout, in and around the number of people killed on our roads every year. You have to make informed consent on the risks that you take, but you have to inform yourself. Informing yourself does not mean watching daytime TV or breakfast TV with the Muppets that go on breakfast TV and the paid lackeys in mainstream media. All these people have a political axe to grind, make no mistake. You can't take any notice of them. I've gone to a lot of trouble for my website, which has over 500,000 words now of independent advice from virologists, immunologists, international doctors, surgeons, and so on. It's all there and it's free. You don't have to pay anything. I've done all the work for you. Me and my colleagues have done all the work for you. You just have to press the button on my website and read it up for yourself so you can make informed consent. And that's what it's all about, and we must take it back. If you are really terrified that you're going to die of COVID, which you highly likely that you will, but if you're really terrified, you stay at home. You hibernate at home. If you feel for some ludicrous reason that you're going to be better off with a mask, wearing a mask, a sort of face nappy, a piece of cloth, if you really believe that, continue to wear it. But don't ask me to wear one, and don't ask me to take medication when I've made an informed decision not to do so. If you've made a decision which I suspect is probably not so well informed to do it, that's your business. Don't make it my business, all right? We must all go our own way. We've got to get back to normal. We've got to sort ourselves out. The national health now, the waiting list of goodness knows how long. This lockdown is killing people. It's distressing people. It's absolutely hopeless. It doesn't work. They're not using it in Texas. They haven't used it for ages in Texas, South Dakota, Florida, where I have business interests, and Sweden. This is seems to be just this country. So something's going on that you're not being told. There's something nasty going on by these people like Matt Hancock and Chris Whitty. And when I look at them, I know kids who were bullied at school, couldn't get into the rugby team, couldn't get into the cricket team. They are screaming Billy no mates at me. And this is a power thing. They're on a power high, locking up the whole country. They're getting off on this. But the only people who can stop it is you. The British public have got to call enough is enough. So for goodness sake, everybody shape up, man up, and let's get back to normal. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So, surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.